Hey guys, Vinnie Mirchandani here. A real pleasure to have Ray Lane today with us from his man cave in California, where he's been quarantined for a few weeks. Ray has had an amazing career. Executive positions at Oracle, at Booz Allen, at EDS, board positions at HP, at Carnegie Mellon University, investor at Kleiner Perkins, a big VC firm, and now with his own fund, which has several impressive startup investments. GreatPoint. Ray, thank you for joining us. Why don't you give us a quick
Thank you.
overview of your career, your long career in 60 seconds?
Okay, well, thank you, Vinny. It's really great to see you, and like everybody in the world, we're able to keep up with each other on Zoom, and that's really been a great tool and a great positive out of this whole environment. Nobody has long enough to hear about my long career, and so I'll just simply say that I've been very, very fortunate to see businesses from different seats in the bleacher, if you will. I've been able to run large companies. When I was chairman of HP, there were 350,000 people and 120 billion in revenue. You don't get much bigger than that. Oracle, of course, was 40, 50,000 people. But now at GreatPoint Ventures, I spend my time working with entrepreneurs that are running companies that are 20 to 50 to 100 people, early stage investing, and trying to help these entrepreneurs gain scale. So whether it's running a company or investing in a company or consulting to a company, it's been great to see all these perspectives. And now as a board member on a lot of private companies and 2 public companies, I get a perspective of the world at large. And that's been I just couldn't have asked for more. When I was chairman at the Carnegie Mellon board, I got a perspective of our higher education system and, what produces these entrepreneurs. And so I just, I'd be hard pressed to say I would change anything or add anything. So happy to be here and just share some views on what's going on in the world today.
Well, Ray, let's start with leadership. So, I'm on my business school's advisory board, and I forgot to ask the dean last week. I said, you taught me a lot of things, but never about how to survive a crisis like this.
Yeah.
Ray, where do people find inspiration? Where you see all kinds of leaders, and you've been a leader yourself. Give us some ideas.
Well, there's a lot of these conversations going on right now, like what's a wartime leader versus a peacetime leader. And we're at war now with this virus. And obviously what needs to be done short-term in businesses is different than we would have done had we not had this virus. But I find that the leadership characteristics that have propelled you to where you are today are basically the leadership characteristics that are going to take care of you and protect you in an environment like we're in right now. To me, some of the more important ones have always been communications and transparency. To be able to, whether you're working in a business of 5 or 10 people or working in a business of 300,000 people, I think it's really important to be transparent and communicate frequently. Let people know. Don't let them kind of conjure up in their own minds what's going on and have fear, because fear can creep in really, really easy to a conversation or to a mindset if it isn't managed. And so frequent communications are really important. Decisiveness is very important. So in what we call whatever normal times are, you can take more time to analyze things. You can take more time to debate options. In an environment like today, you have to be very decisive. You can be wrong, but it's not good to be undecisive or indecisive. So make decisions. If they're wrong, correct them, but make decisions because people need leadership. They need to see their decision makers, right out front. I'll also mention, that something I've kind of always felt helped me in leading companies was just having, not being afraid to influence with a minority opinion. So I've always thought, okay, pick the smart idea, try to drive in a direction that you think is right, but realize that you have to have an ability to sway others to come your way, because very few things in life are unilateral where you can just simply decide. A good example of this, I think, is, and a lot of people just don't like President Trump's style, but he has an ability to say, I know where I want to go, see the other side of that decision, and then influence people to come his way. And if he can't, then obviously he has a style all of his own to deal with it. But I find leaders who can sway a group of people to move their direction and take the journey with them are much more powerful than those leaders that just simply dictate.
Talking about decisive, Ray, I mean, it's been, in all the doom and gloom, we've seen some amazing acrobatics and heroics, right? In healthcare, in auto companies jumping into medical ventilators, 3M quadrupling N95 masks, all kinds of logistics, last mile delivery, innovations, and so on. And 6 months of change in 2 weeks almost, right? Tell us about some acrobatics in your portfolio. I'm sure you've seen some. I'm sure you've seen some around you in the boards and so on.
Yeah, right. So GreatPoint Ventures invests in early stage companies, and if you look at our portfolio, you'd find half of them are in enterprise technology, so selling technical infrastructure or applications or new technology to large enterprises, and the other half would be in healthcare solutions of some sort, starting with food tech, so new types of food like Beyond Meat, which is a portfolio company, all the way through really understanding what's going on inside your body, early detection of disease, medical devices, and things like that. So we like that healthcare space a lot. We have certainly seen a lot of creativity in our portfolio since since COVID-19 hit. I'll give you a couple of examples. So we have when we started working our portfolio, like everybody else, if you're on a board or if you're an investor, the first thing you do is take a look at your portfolio and say, okay, how do we stand? Do we have a position in each company that is going to withstand this crisis? And I thought the most important measures are, number one, is your revenue hit directly. So does this just take your revenue away like an airline? Secondly, do you need to raise capital? Do you have 12 months, at least 12 months of cash to get through it? And thirdly, do you have to be present in the office to work? So we have several companies that are doing lab work, working on firmware, working in a factory, and they need to be open in order to generate revenue. And so we looked at that. We were very, very fortunate that only 8 companies out of 35 fell into those categories, one of those 3 categories, and now we're down to like a couple companies, just 2 companies that need to raise more capital. But we saw some real creativity occur that I did not expect. So one company, Farmer's Fridge packages fresh salads in a mason jar format, plastic mason jar, and they distribute those mason jars through kiosks. Those kiosks are placed in corporate lobbies and airports. Well, there's no traffic in corporate lobbies, and there's no traffic in airports right now. But they are, within 6 weeks, they're back to 90% of their peak revenue. So they could have stepped back, the CEO could have stepped back and I think joined the majority of saying, we need to cut our staff by 50% or 80% because we have no revenue. We need to do all sorts of extraordinary things on the expense side. Instead, he restructured the way his company would deliver his product and took the same product, made the same way every day, and delivers it to hospitals and other organizations, schools, whatever, that need to buy his product, that need to take advantage of it. In fact, they think it's a godsend because they typically don't have cafeterias open in this environment. They don't have great sources of food. and they get it. This way they could eat healthy and fresh every day. So Beyond Meat does the same thing. Beyond Meat had to shift a lot of their revenue from food service side to the retail side. They've taken advantage of some of the news you've seen recently of meat shortages because plants are closing down. So we are seeing a lot of creativity, which obviously is one of those leadership characteristics you asked me about. We've seen a lot of creativity come out of this, which I think is positive and maybe lasting beyond the COVID crisis.
That's that has really been one of the positives that come out of this whole thing is the amount of acrobatics or creativity, as you call it.
Right.
Let's Ray, let's talk about, you're a very global person. How do we come out of this? You hear a lot of political talk of let's bring things back. It just seems like a lot of the globalization that we saw in the last 20 years seems at risk. Where do you see things going?
Yeah, I think, like most things in life, you can take a concept too far. Back when you and I were kids, young businessmen, we were talking about centralizing management structures, decentralizing, right? It seemed like every 5 years, it was a popular concept to recommend the opposite of what we were. So if we were a centralized structure,
I think Booz Allen made a lot of money.
we made a lot. Booz Allen made a lot of money recommending, yeah, exactly. Go back the other way. Same thing with vertical integration, right? Their companies were vertically integrated, then they were not vertically integrated, and so I think you do see those things, and I think certainly we have gone way too far in globalizing our economy, where we have become super dependent upon supply chains that we do not control. And that's a real problem. It's in the news today, but I think it's a real problem. And we need to understand where that balance is between economics, just basically depending on a supply chain that has a workforce that works for $1 a day versus having independence. We did that actually, a good example is we did that in the energy industry, right? In 2005 to 2010, this country was very worried about its dependency of getting energy, fossil fuels primarily, but from the Middle East or South America, and that those countries, not friendly to the United States, could control the price of energy, therefore control our economy. That was a real threat. And so what do? We innovated our way out of it with horizontal drilling and fracking to become energy independent. So I think we're going to have to do the same thing here, is bring some of our manufacturing back, maybe find more friendly countries that are, lower cost, maybe use parts of our own country. My industry, the technology community, you think of it as being a Silicon Valley based, or at best East Coast, West Coast kind of an industry. It can take advantage of the central part of the country. A lot of operations, especially manufacturing operations, could be based in Nebraska, Iowa, West Virginia, Kentucky, a lot of places that are lower cost than to manufacture in California or New York or Michigan. And so I think, when we come out of this, my sincere hope is that of what we're experiencing now, that we can actually make 50% of it permanent. I'm not looking forward to travel to board meetings again. That's not something so I want to build into my permanent, the question at the planning stage, do we really have to travel to that board meeting? Because as far as I know, the board meetings are as good or better if they're not done in person. I know sales organizations now that are finding it more efficient, that it is a more capital efficient process to sell via Zoom than it is in person, where you arrive the day before, you take somebody to dinner. Obviously the relationship building is much better doing it that way, but it's not capital efficient. And so I think we're discovering a number of things, and not just 2 or 3, but maybe 20 or 30 things in our life that could be better. It's not all bad. Again, it's all personal. Some people may want to get out of the house because they have they have 6-year-olds and 10-year-olds running around the house, and you have to school them as well. But it's not all bad to be able to be here, probably work harder, be a more intense day of doing 7 or 8 Zoom calls in a day, but take a break and go out and spend some time with my dogs, or have dinner with my family, which is something this family eats on its own independently. And now we've kind of come together for dinners and cook dinner together, or enjoy a movie or something like that. And so I do believe that, and now I think human nature might take us back, to
Business as
80% of where we came from.
Yeah.
But my sincere hope is that we only go back to 50% of it, and we have woken up to a number of things that could, you've heard people comment, wow, the air is cleaner since we're not driving automobiles. I'm able to get things done faster through Zoom. All these comments that people are making today, let's just not try to say, that was just a COVID thing. That was just to kind of respond to COVID. It's something that should be permanent.
It's funny you say that. My daughter has been back with us for a few weeks, and she's thinking about a book around the premise that the world shuts down for 2 weeks every single year.
Yeah.
Which, now, a year ago, we couldn't have thought about it. But now you look at it and you go, oh, wow. Of course, she's got a twist to it. Something goes very bad in those 2 weeks. So
well, I would encourage her to think about having, how do we take those things that are actually net positive?
Right.
And I, you could actually run a bit of a war room on this and say, okay, is travel good or bad? If I have to go all the way to the East Coast to meet with one prospect and fly back, is that a good thing or a bad thing when I could have done it with Zoom? This has been a wake-up call.
Yeah.
And so let's retain what we really like about the environment and get rid of what we don't like.
So let's go back to your portfolio. What new opportunities are you seeing from this? Or is it your principles not going to change dramatically?
Yeah, well, I don't think in the end they'll change dramatically, but what we are seeing is an acceleration of digital transformation trends. So what we think we're good at is, besides being great operators, all 3 of my partners are great operators. They've run many companies. One partner has run 8 or 9 companies, and he created those companies and ran them. Another partner's run 5 of them. I'm the slouch. I've only run 2. And but we're great operators. But what we also think we're good at is trying to project how a technology intersects with a pain point in a particular industry, whether it is beating cancer, or it's delivering better quality, less expensive food, or it's an enterprise technology that runs more data faster. Okay, whatever the pain point is, it's our job to kind of discover that pain point, identify a technology, and an entrepreneur. So we're big believers on betting on the jockey, not so much the horse. And so we believe that the entrepreneur determines success of that particular company. But if we can take that entrepreneur, focus it on a pain point with the right technology, we'll look into the future. What's happened now is, I think we've brought 10 years of digital transformation forward, and we're seeing a much faster adoption. I don't think we'd be doing Zoom board meetings had it not been for COVID. And there's a number of kind of digital trends that have gotten accelerated for the good. And so I think that'll be the result of this. Now, we're trying to stay away from, there's a lot of charlatans out there hawking wares of, we'll beat the COVID crisis, or your COVID crisis, you're dealing with this problem, we'll help you. We're not investing in those companies. It's kind of short term, and it'll kind of wash through the system. But I do believe that all of the trends we have seen in technology, such as artificial intelligence and machine learning, such as cloud computing or big data, or in healthcare, different types of diagnostics or genomic research. I think all of that will get advanced.
Yeah, I think I've talked to a number of companies who've said automation is going to become much more important, especially if you bring business back,
Yeah.
from a cost
You
perspective.
know, it's happened before, but I think funds that were started in 2020 and 2021 could be the best performing funds of the decade, because
Really?
yeah, they'll see real creative. A lot of the chaff has been washed out of the system. We had gotten to the point where we had 10 years or more, 12 years of great growth. And so there's a lot of money in the investing community, both growth investing and venture investing. There's a lot of entrepreneurs that are probably are not entrepreneurs that could survive in today's environment, that can raise money. And if they can raise money, they have a business. That's all you have to do, is go convince somebody that to put $10 million into your company, and you're off and running on what may be a bad idea. Now, that sloppiness, I think, will get washed out of the system very quickly. And now, you know, right after that, it's like a big storm has come through. Right after that, the air clears. Now great entrepreneurs can be heard, can be tested, and smarter investors will invest in them.
Yeah, it certainly is clear in a physical sense. Ray, so I've been asking everybody, predict the economy. Do you see a V, a sharp rebound? Do you see a slow U? You see a W where, you know, we go up and down, kind of choppy?
Yeah.
Or do you see an L, which is dead for a while?
Yeah. You know, sitting right today, right, we see some states opening up. So I think it's, you know, I really have high hopes for Texas and Florida, Louisiana, who are saying we need to open up. And they've got people and cultures that just feel like they're, you know, it's not, government can't tell them what to do. And I sincerely hope they do well, and their caseload continues to go down, even though they're opening up. In Texas, I understand they're opening up restaurants and theaters. They're going all the way. We're in California and New York, we're still pretty locked down. You know, Gavin Newsom just said, can't go out on the beach. And that I don't get. I don't understand how people, you know, today, I mean, if you've tried to move outside your house at all with a mask on, you're pretty careful about how close you get to somebody. So if you go to a beach, I think you're going to be pretty careful. And I don't think you know, being on the beach is going to bring all this back. That said, I don't see any of the letters that you went through. I don't see a V, but I also don't see a U. I'm probably more in the U camp than I am in the V camp, but I kind of see a left side of the V and a lazy right side of the V, kind of like a Nike swoosh thing, you know, but something that kind of comes out of it slower, more carefully. You know, I don't think there's any way that Q3 just bounces back in a V. You know, that we see a great Q2 was it. Q2 took the big hit. That was the bottom part of the V, and now Q3, Q4 are back. I think Q3, we get indications. We go back to work, and Q4, I think we could see a very good rebound.
Well, you did use a Greek goddess, Nike, so
yeah,
which
exactly.
does have a foreign alphabet. One final question: what do you think? How do you think Newsom's done? How do you think our president's doing?
I, for one, think the U.S., so the federal government, Trump's leadership, and the governors have done a great job. I think they haven't shied away. Yes, you got fringe cases where maybe a governor has gone too far and said, we're going to stay closed until July. And I don't understand that. They have no crystal ball to say that. They're just simply erring on the side of ultra caution. And that's not what leadership is about. Leadership is about assessing the risk and the return. The risk of staying in this environment, even another month, is really high. not the risk of doing it, but the risk of pain and much more pain coming from it. We have to get out of the house. We have to start working again. We have to see, it has to be in a measured way, but I think we have to see certain industries come back where there just isn't. I mean, in my neighborhood, no landscapers and no construction for the last 5 weeks. I just don't get it. Landscapers are outside. They can wear a mask. They can socially distance. And they can travel to the work site separately in their cars. So I don't understand why it's just a full-on, everybody shut down and until we get our caseload down to 1 case per month or something. It just, the risk of that, the economic risk of that is horrible. So I think I am on the side of what Texas is doing and what Georgia is doing and what Florida is doing. And I think they will prove that you can run a balanced, responsible government, have people trust in the people to, if it's not only self-interest, to kind of socially distance for themselves, but trust in the people and start operating the economy again. So I think, look, it is not easy, and I don't think President Trump gets nearly enough credit for getting on television every single day. Remember what I said when you asked me the question about leadership traits? I said, communicate, be transparent and communicate. He stands up there and gets beaten, get the crap beat out of him by the media, and he comes back for more. And he is just, it is a leadership trait that I think is perfect for the time to make sure everybody has the information, the right information, and he knows he can't trust the media to disseminate the right information.
You're absolutely right. I feel for him because he probably is not getting much sleep at all on top of all that. So
right.
Ray, this has been wonderful. Any final thoughts?
No, just everybody, please be safe. Look, if we're gonna open up our economy again, it is the responsibility now transfers from government to us. And so I think get out, get back to work, bring all of these great technologies that we've seen during the COVID crisis, bring them forward. And I think you can operate in the month of May being socially responsible, but let's get the economy going again.
Well, Ray, let's hope for we may end up with a swoosh, as you say. But thank you so much.
Okay, Vinnie, it was great to see you. Thank you, and be well, please.
Thank you. Same to you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.